He still loves you. Nicole read the 4 handwritten words once, twice, 3 times. Her coffee cup slipped from her other hand, shattering across the kitchen floor in a spray of ceramic and dark liquid. She didn't even flinch. Those 4 words, written by a stranger, had just torn open everything she thought she knew about her divorce, about her 15-year marriage, about the man she'd decided to leave behind. Her hands trembled as she stared at the crumpled piece of paper she'd just pulled from her mailbox. "I thought it would be a stop smoking or wash your driveway. I was very wrong," Nicole would later say. But in that frozen moment on a gray November morning in 1982, she couldn't speak at all. If you've ever wondered if you made the right decision about something that changed your life forever, hit that subscribe button. This story will make you question everything. 6 months earlier, Nicole had been certain. Absolutely certain. Her marriage to Stephen was over, not because of screaming fights or infidelity, but because of something far quieter and perhaps far deadlier. They had simply stopped seeing each other. 15 years of marriage had faded into a routine so predictable that Nicole felt more like a housekeeper than a wife. Stephen came home from his accounting job at exactly 6:15 p.m. every day. Dinner at 6:45, television until 10 bed, repeat. Their 12-year-old son Kevin moved through the house like a ghost between them, sensing the distance but too young to name it. When Nicole finally said the words, "I want a divorce," Stephen had simply nodded. He'd packed a suitcase that same night and moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. No begging, no fighting, just acceptance. That acceptance had hurt worse than any argument ever could. The divorce proceedings had been painfully civil. They divided assets with the emotional investment of people splitting a restaurant bill. Everyone kept asking Nicole if she was sure, and every time she'd responded with the same rehearsed answer, "We just grew apart. It happens." But did it just happen, or had they let it happen? That question had never occurred to Nicole until the note appeared in her mailbox that November morning. No envelope, no signature, just 4 words in feminine handwriting she didn't recognize. Nicole's first instinct was anger. Who would do this? Who would interfere in her life, her decision, her carefully constructed certainty? She marched out to the sidewalk in her bathrobe, looking up and down the tree-lined suburban street. The neighborhood was as still and unremarkable as always. No mysterious figure lurked in the shadows. She crumpled the note and threw it in the kitchen trash. Then, 20 minutes later, she dug it back out. By noon, she'd read it 30 times. By evening, it had burrowed into her brain like a splinter she couldn't remove. When Kevin came home from school that day, he found his mother sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. "Mom, you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart," Nicole lied. "How was school?" Kevin shrugged and dropped his backpack. "Jeremy asked me again why you and Dad are getting divorced." He opened the refrigerator, not looking at her. "I still don't know what to tell him." The simplicity of the statement hit Nicole like a physical blow. Her son didn't understand. How could he? She barely understood it herself. "Your dad and I," Nicole began, then stopped. We weren't happy anymore. But you weren't unhappy either," Kevin said, turning to face her. "You guys never even fought that much. You just stopped." Out of the mouths of babes, Nicole thought. Her son had articulated in seconds what she'd been unable to explain in months. They hadn't fought. They'd just stopped trying, stopped connecting, stopped being anything more than 2 people who happened to live in the same house. That night, Nicole pulled out a photo album she'd boxed up months ago. Page after page showed a different story than the one she'd been telling herself. Stephen on their honeymoon, looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Stephen teaching Kevin to ride a bike. Stephen surprising her with breakfast in bed on a random Tuesday. When had that man disappeared? Or had he never disappeared at all? Had she just stopped looking? The note haunted Nicole for days. She became obsessed with identifying the handwriting. Was it Stephen's mother? A mutual friend? She called 3 of them. All denied it. The mystery deepened. Then Kevin mentioned something casual. "Dad's been acting weird lately. He goes to the library every Tuesday." Nicole nearly dropped the plate she was drying. The library. Your father. Yeah, Kevin said. He checks out a bunch of books, poetry and stuff. It's pretty weird. Stephen Thompson did not read poetry. In 15 years of marriage, Nicole had never seen him read anything more creative than the sports section. What on earth was he doing at the library? 2 days later, Nicole found herself walking into the Riverside Public Library. The librarian at the front desk was an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair pulled into a neat bun. "Excuse me," Nicole said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know this is strange, but do you know Stephen Thompson?" The librarian's face lit up with recognition. "Oh, Stephen, yes, of course. Every Tuesday like clockwork." She smiled warmly. Such a dedicated man. Dedicated to what? Nicole asked, her heart hammering. Well, his reading, dear. Poetry, communication books, relationship guides. He told me he's trying to learn how to be better at expressing himself. Said it was probably too late, but he wanted to try anyway. The world tilted. Nicole gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. The librarian pulled up Stephen's account on the computer. Nicole stared at the list. Love Poems by Pablo Neruda. The Art of Loving. How to Talk So Your Spouse Will Listen. Marriage. What It Takes to Stay Together. Book after book. Week after week. For months. While Nicole had been filing divorce papers with cold efficiency, Stephen had been sitting in this library, desperately trying to learn how to save what was breaking. Nicole drove to Stephen's apartment without deciding to do it. She knocked on his door at 7:30 p.m. When Stephen opened the door, surprise quickly shifted to concern. "Nicole, is Kevin okay?" "Kevin's fine," she said. Can I come in?" His apartment was neat, minimal, lonely. A TV dinner tray sat on the coffee table next to a library book. She pulled the note from her purse and held it up. "Did you send this?" Stephen took it, read it, and his face showed genuine confusion. "No. What is it?" "Someone put it in my mailbox a week ago." Stephen handed it back, looking uncomfortable. "Nicole, why are you here?" "I went to the library," she said finally. "The librarian knows you." Stephen's face went pale. He sat down heavily on the couch, and Nicole saw something she hadn't seen in years. Raw, undisguised vulnerability. "I've been trying to learn," Stephen said quietly. "How to be better. Communicate better. I know I failed at that. Failed at making you feel loved." He looked down at his hands. "I thought if I could figure out what I did wrong, maybe I could at least be better for the next person, I guess." "The next person?" Nicole's voice cracked. "Stephen, what about me?" He looked up, tears in his eyes. "Nicole, you left, you were so sure. And you were right to be sure. I was a terrible husband. I took you for granted. I bought you a vacuum cleaner for our anniversary, for God's sake. The kind who didn't know I needed something different," Nicole heard herself say. "Because I never told you. I smiled and said thank you, and let the resentment build up like poison. I never once said, 'Stephen, I need romance. I need to feel seen.' I just expected you to know, and when you didn't, I decided the marriage was dead." The silence that followed was different from the silences they'd shared before. This one was full, rather than empty. "I felt invisible too," Stephen finally said. "I'd come home and talk about my day, and you'd nod while loading the dishwasher. After a while, I stopped asking. It hurt less to just exist alongside you than to keep reaching out and finding nothing there." Nicole sat down on the couch, leaving 2 feet of space between them. "We were both invisible. We were both screaming silently, hoping the other person would hear. And neither of us did." "So what now?" Stephen asked. Nicole thought about the note, about those 4 simple words from a stranger who'd seen something she'd been too close to see. She thought about Stephen sitting in the library, trying to become a better man even when he thought it was too late. She thought about Kevin, confused and hurting. "I don't know," Nicole admitted. "But maybe we could actually try, with honesty this time, with therapy, with saying the hard things out loud instead of letting them rot inside us." Stephen looked at her like she'd just offered him water in a desert. You'd be willing to try? I think that note was right, Nicole said softly. You still love me. And Stephen, I think I still love you too. I just forgot how to show it. How to ask for it. They didn't fix everything that night. Nicole didn't move back in. But they sat on that couch and talked, really talked, until 2 a.m. They said things they'd never said before. They cried. They admitted failures and fears and forgotten dreams. And when Nicole finally drove home, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. 6 months later, Nicole found another note in her mailbox. Same handwriting, 4 different words. Keep trying. Love matters. This time she didn't panic. She simply looked up at the houses around her. Her eyes landed on Mrs. Patterson's window, the elderly widow who'd lived across the street for 30 years. The old woman stood there, watering her plants, and when their eyes met, she smiled and waved. Nicole waved back, tears streaming down her face. She never asked Mrs. Patterson directly. Some mysteries were more beautiful unsolved. But she kept both notes in a frame on her bedside table. A reminder that love doesn't die from one catastrophic betrayal. It dies from 1,000 small silences, from assumptions left unchallenged, from words left unspoken. Nicole and Stephen's marriage didn't magically heal. They attended therapy every week. They fought, really fought, about real things. Stephen learned to express affection in words. Nicole learned to ask for what she needed instead of expecting mind reading. Some days were hard. But every time Nicole saw those notes, he still loves you and keep trying, love matters, she remembered that 4 words from a stranger had been enough to shatter her certainty and save what she thought was already lost. Because sometimes, the people watching from the outside can see what we're too close to see ourselves. Sometimes, 4 words are enough to change everything. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't walking away. It's turning around and trying again. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, it's never too late to say the words that matter. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what it means to be human, to love, and to keep trying even when it's hard.